Hi everybody, how are you all? I hope you people are keeping yourself fit, healthy and active. More than this, I think you people are enjoying the endless holidays in spite of your online classes. Good children, now what are we going to see in today's lesson? It is just a continuation of the lesson which we have already seen, friction. So under friction we have discussed a lot before. What is friction and what are the factors affecting friction and what are the types of frictions? All this we have discussed. And in today's lesson we are going to discuss whether friction is needed or not required. We are going to come to a conclusion whether it is needed or not required. Do we want friction or don't want friction? Now let us take some of the examples and analyze whether friction is required or not required. When we want to write anything, we hold a pen in our hand. And not only that, we use our hands for eating, for drinking, etc. So holding an object requires friction. So, do we require friction? Yes, absolutely, we require friction. And next we can discuss on striking a matchstick. Without friction, there will not be a fire in the matchsticks, right? And you would have seen some animals like snakes, monkeys climbing on the trees. Even men, they climb the trees to fetch something on the trees. So climbing on the tree also requires friction. So these are the cases we have discussed and they reveal friction is absolutely required by us. Now let us take some other examples. When we buy the new chappals or shoes, it has grooves on its bottom surface. So what happens to it after you use it for quite some time? The surface is becoming wear and tear, and finally you come to a position where you cannot further use it and you have to go for a new one. Similarly, the tires in your bicycles, cars or any automobiles, it has to be replaced periodically because the friction exerted between the tire and the ground makes the tire to lose the grooves, and when you don't replace the tires with new, you will meet with accidents, right? So in this case we can conclude that friction is not desirable. We don't want friction. And mainly in some other examples like machineries. So machineries, they work by moving one part with the other. So when one part moves with the other, friction produces. And when the parts are moving along with the other, there is a wear and tear. So the machine gets repaired quite often, and that particular part which moves, you have to replace it. Especially in automobiles, due to this friction, the part becomes worn out and you have to replace it. And if you don't replace it, it produces more noise as well as it consumes more fuel. So, in these cases, we can come to the conclusion it is not desirable. So, we cannot come to a conclusion whether we need friction or whether we don't want friction. In some cases, we require friction. In some other cases, we don't require friction. And that's why we say friction is a necessary evil. You know what is the meaning of evil, right? So it is a necessary evil. We want it. Though it gives heat as well as the worn out of machines, still we require it because we make many things out of friction. As I told you, writing, eating, climbing. So all this requires friction. Hence, children, so we will analyze this factor, whether it is required or not required, in detail in this lesson. And also we will discuss about the advantages and disadvantages of friction. And further, we will also discuss on how to minimize friction and as well as how to increase friction. So all this we will discuss in today's lesson, children. So listen to the lessons very carefully, understand things, and we'll go into the lessons. Come on,
Yes, children, we see in this slide about the friction is useful, how friction is useful. Friction is useful for many of our daily activities. Let us see one by one. It is possible to hold a tumbler or a glass due to friction between the hand and the tumbler. So we are able to hold a glass in our hands due to friction. It is possible to walk on the ground due to friction between the feet and the ground. So walking is also enabled by friction. It is possible to write with a pen or a pencil on a paper due to friction between the pen or the pencil and the paper. It is possible to write on a blackboard due to friction between the chalk and the blackboard. It is possible to move automobiles on roadside due to friction between the tires and the road. Friction between bricks help in the construction of buildings. So friction is useful in all these cases as we had seen. Yes, children, we will summarize some of the important facts on the advantages of friction. So it helps us in walking conveniently. It saves us from slipping. It helps us in writing on a piece of paper. Friction is helpful in eating as well as drinking. Lighting a matchstick by rubbing is all due to friction. Nails and screws join two surfaces due to friction. We can climb a tree. Not only you would have seen some animals like monkeys, even snakes climbing a tree. So climbing a tree requires friction. Trains can run on the rails. In fact, life becomes impossible if there is no friction in nature. Now we will pass on to the next. What are the undesirable qualities of friction? How friction is undesirable. Soles of shoes wear out due to friction. So we often replace our shoes and chappals after we use it for a long time due to the sole getting worn out. Similarly, the tires of bicycles and automobiles wear out due to friction. Steps of staircases and foot over bridges in railway station. They also wear due to friction. Knives and razors lose their sharpness due to friction. So these are the undesirable facts all about friction. So children, let us conclude or let us revise or summarize about the disadvantages of friction. The main disadvantage of friction is that it produces heat in various parts of machines. In this way, some useful energy is wasted as heat energy. So this you can experience by rubbing your palms together. When you rub your palms together, you can see the production of heat and you can feel it yourself. So this heat energy is the major disadvantage of friction. Due to friction, we have to exert more power in machines. Friction opposes the motion. Due to friction, noise is also produced in machines. Due to friction, engines of automobiles consume more fuel, which is a monetary loss. Children, so far we have seen about the advantages as well as the disadvantages of friction. Do we require friction or don't we require friction? It is a confusing question. So, is it necessary or is it not necessary? We cannot come to a conclusion on this because sometimes it is helpful, sometimes it is a hindrance. So, we say friction is a necessary evil. It's a very great statement in physics. A necessary evil, though it is an evil, it is being required. So we say friction is a necessary evil. There are instances in daily life where friction is necessary. For example, without friction, we cannot hold objects in our hands. We cannot walk and cannot light a matchstick. Sometimes friction is not undesirable. For example, friction between machinery parts which causes wear and tear. As friction is advantageous to us, it is considered as a friend, but due to its disadvantage, it is a foe. Depending on the circumstance, friction can be a help or hindrance. Thus, we conclude friction is an unnecessary evil. Children, let us see where friction is required to be increased, where we can increase friction. You may be wondering, previously we have discussed about lot of disadvantages or the undesirable situations where friction plays a role. Though we have so many undesirable qualities of friction, sometimes we need more friction than the usual. So that is what we are going to learn now, how to increase friction. As we all know, friction is an evil, but certain places we want more friction to take place, like in cars, shoes, and grip anything. So we will discuss in detail in the upcoming slides. Now, in this slide, we will see about the increasing friction. As shown in the figure, the threaded tires of cars, trucks, and the bulldozers provide better grip with the ground. Increase friction by using brake system of bicycles and automobiles. Kabaddi players rub their hands with soil for a better grip of their opponents. So the tires are being threaded to increase the friction between the ground and the tires. And the braking system is increased by increasing the threaded brakes on the surface of the running parts. Similarly, kabaddi players also, they start their game by rubbing their hands with the sand to have a better grip for the opponents. So in these three cases, friction is being increased. Children, let us see some of the facts about increasing friction in this slide. There are many situations where we cannot do anything without friction. To overcome skidding along a slippery road, we adopt measures to increase friction. Kacha roads get muddy and slippery during rains. It is not possible to walk or drive on such roads. For this, sand and gravel are spread over the mud to make the road rough. Tires of our vehicles and also soles of the shoes are grooved. This increases friction. This helps easy rolling of vehicles on the roads and also provides better gripping with the shoes on the floor. Mountaineers also wear spiked shoes to increase friction while walking on the snow. Now, let us summarize where friction is increased. Friction can be increased by increasing the roughness of the surface in contact. Examples: the soles of shoes are grooved to have a better grip on the floor. The tires of vehicles are threaded to increase the grip on the road. The brake pads of vehicles are rough to stop moving vehicles when the brakes are applied. Gymnasts apply some coarse substance on their hands for a better grip. So in these cases, friction is being increased. Children, we have seen about increasing friction all these slides. Can friction be reduced? Yes, friction can also be reduced, and reducing friction plays a vital role in our day-to-day life in many of the events. Now, let us look into the ways where we minimize the friction. There are various ways to reduce friction. First, by using lubricants. Friction increases as the roughness of the surface increases. Lubricants fill the pores and gaps between the contact surfaces and reduce friction. Now, if you have your bicycles, then you maintain the bicycles with oiling on the parts where they are moving, especially the chain parts and the pedaling part. You used to lubricate it with the help of an oil. So lubrication reduces friction. It smoothens the rough surface. Second way is by polishing the surface. Friction can also be reduced by polishing the surface. It makes the surface even and hence reduces the friction. Third way, it's by using ball bearings. So rotating machines can be mounted on ball bearings. Rolling friction is lesser than sliding friction. This concept we have seen earlier. So where are the rolling machines are there? Example, a ceiling fan. And all this we will discuss in the next slides. Then by streamlining. Streamlining reduces the area of contact and thus reduces friction. For example, if you see the shape of the boat or shape of the aeroplane, we say it is streamlined. So streamlining the shape helps to reduce the friction. And in the next slides, we will see how they are being applied. Now, this slide gives you the various ways in which friction is reduced. Friction can be reduced by using lubricants like powders or oils and greases, using rollers or wheels, using ball bearings. We sprinkle powder on a carom board to reduce friction. Oil or grease is applied between moving parts of a machine to reduce friction. Wheels are used in vehicles to reduce friction. Ball bearings are used in ceiling fans, bicycles and vehicles to reduce friction. So these are the ways in which we reduce friction in our day-to-day life. Yes, children, by this we come to an end of today's lesson. Today we have seen all about the situations where we require friction and the situations where friction is undesirable. And finally, we concluded friction is a necessary evil. So we cannot completely eradicate friction, and similarly, we cannot completely avoid friction. So it is a necessary evil. And also we have seen situations where we have to increase friction and where we have to reduce friction. So by this we come to an end of the full chapter called friction. So children, after just listening to these slides, go through the text, open your textbook, go from the beginning till the last, along with the audios and the slides which I had given to you. So you must be in a better position to understand this lesson. Hence, children, have a good idea about friction, and that's it, children.